And welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Night Saber Z42, and today we're going to do sort of like a review. It's going to be an interesting one, very different. I have with me Spectacular Settlements by Nord Games, and what I'm going to do, I'm not going to do a extensive review like I've done in the past over this whole entire book. Instead, I'm actually going to I'm gonna do mini reviews. Well, not so much. I'm actually gonna do a more extensive review at the end, but I'm actually gonna do like these little tiny tutorials on how to use this book. And the thing about this book is, this is all about creating those interesting places that your players go to. They can be things like trading posts, villages, towns, cities, and even capitals and fortresses. So today I'm actually going to roll a trading post from start to finish and show you guys the whole entire process. You're going to need a couple things. First, you're going to need the actual PDF of the book, and you're going to need either a printed form of the trading post sheet or a PDF, and I actually have the fillable PDF here. You're also going to need some dice to roll, and since I'm doing this on the computer, I actually have Roll20 up here running so I can show you guys all of my rolls and all of that. So without further ado, let us get started. So, by the way, a little bit of an introduction. This is by far one of my favorite supplements to actually use in my Dungeons and Dragons game. And I believe this was also the first product that I've ever kicked out or backed on Kickstarter. And so I've been getting all of the updates leading up to its release, and I actually have a physical copy of the book, which I'll actually show off in my full-length review, which is absolutely beautiful, by the way. So here we are, Trading Posts. You step out from the shade of the trees, weary and aching. Your rations have been stretched thin, and your bedroll somehow doesn't feel quite as comfortable as it used to. With your thoughts dominated by the need to collapse, you almost do just that, but then, in your periphery, you catch a glimpse of something off to the west. A building of some kind? A house, maybe. Your feet start moving mechanically once again. It's a trading post. So here we have an overview of what is included in the trading post, and you get this at the beginning of each chapter as well. You get these different tool tips to help you out along the way, and we actually get to do our first roll, which is on the origin. So how did this trading post come to be? So you're gonna roll a 1d8. We got a 5, so this is no man's land. The trading post was established as a neutral place where opposing forces could purchase wares without encroaching on enemy territory. So that will be our very, very first origin right here. We'll just go ahead and put no man's land. And actually, while we're at it, the very first thing we should do is go ahead and create a name. And this is actually going to be the Dustgate point, and don't think I actually came up with that name off the top of my head. I suck at names. I actually looked this up yesterday on a random name generator for Outposts. So there you have it. Some of the other things that you have in terms of origin, you have accidental, business venture, crossroads, a military outpost. That actually sounds fun. A native, an overnight stop, and a wilderness expert. So those sound like some fun stuff. So the trading post specialty is the main thing that it is known for. Trading posts tend to favor things relating to the flow of goods and information. There may be a particular crop available or the craft of a certain item. They may also be known for a kind of service they specialize in. So we're going to roll a 1d6 here. We got a 6. Look at that. So we got an unscrupulous contractors. This trading post is known for having people who can get just about anything done if the coin is right. So it's in no man's land, and we're going to have, let's see, a 1d10. So we got a 10, Hands of the Divine. So look at that. So we have an unscrupulous contractors. And let's go ahead and put Hands of the Divine. And I like how they kind of leave that a little vague, so we can actually come up with a reason of what that means. Is the Hands of the Divine, are they a cult? Are they actually, you know, part of a religious faction in your world? That's up to you as the creator to actually go ahead and figure out. And I like how some of the things are quite specific and some of the things are a little vague. It keeps things a little bit interesting, so you have some room to finagle some things. And actually, when I was creating a capital for my own game, I had a concept in mind, and I did some rolling, and there were some things that actually fit my concept a lot better than some of the other options, so I would just kind of use those results to kind of fit the need. So if you actually have a concept in mind, then that would be something that you would go ahead and do. So let's roll for age. We have a d20. Yeah. So we got 6, so that will fall under established. The trading post has been around for at least a couple years, and that gives us a modifier to a later roll, which is a +0 to the visitor traffic roll. So let's go ahead, established, and the trading outpost has been around for at least a couple years, and we can determine that later on. And I will actually go ahead and put the modifier here so I can know. Can I actually? Oh, I can't bold. That's unfortunate, but I will include that there just so I can reference it towards it later. Next, we have the condition. The condition of a trading post sends a message to travelers, one of welcome or one of warning. The trading post may be beautiful with fresh paint and clean walkways, or dirty and falling apart. So let's roll that d20 yet again. We got ourselves another 6. Very interesting. It's poor. The buildings and surroundings are rough and dirty. Roads are uneven, dirt and dust. Not quite something the Hand of the Divine would want to, you know, use, but maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe they are actually, you know, maybe a little bit corrupt. Man, typing and talking is actually really rough. So, as you start to roll, or as I start to roll, I'm actually going to start thinking of how this all kind of fits into place. And it doesn't look like it's going to have some sort of a flow at the very beginning, but once you get all of these different concepts together, it kind of, you can start really thinking about, oh, so this is why this is in the poor condition and stuff like that. So it's really up to your imagination to figure out why the Hand of the Divine has got this place in such a poor condition. Or maybe it's the region that, you know, this area is in, which is in no man's land. So that could also indicate why we're in poor condition. Maybe resources are spread thin, and well, something's ringing. So maybe your resources are spread thin, and some supplies are really hard to come by. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm making this place called Dustgate Point. So we have the visitors traffic, which is modified by the age, which is actually 0. Oops, not 9, 0. So we'll go ahead and put that there. Let's see, how does age modify visitor traffic? And there's a little tooltip right there. We're just gonna go ahead and roll on the 1d20, which is a 17. There are droves. There are lots of new faces on a regular basis, and so that makes things a little bit interesting. So we have a lot of people, yet we're in a poor part of the land, I guess. So maybe this land that we're in, maybe there's a reason why people are coming here. Maybe there's something that everybody wants. Maybe, like, you know, maybe there's lots of gold out there, or maybe there's like a lost ancient civilization that everybody's trying to get in on. So we do have 2 modifiers on this specific roll that we actually did. So since we're in droves, we get a +3 to the size roll, and a -1 to the crime roll. So on the visitors traffic, we're going to go ahead and do the +3. So what this means, when we actually get over here to the size, we're actually going to add 3 to our dice roll. So we're going to add 3 to the d20 roll. And if it's above 20, then it's just going to be that 19 through 20. So very large. So let's go ahead and roll that d20. We got a 5, which becomes an 8, which actually does put us into the next category. So we actually go from a small, if we didn't have that modifier, to a medium, which is up to 60 standing structures, which is very interesting. I really wouldn't have appreciated it if we were in a very small or small place with droves. But then again, you know, that could just be the thing. As you're piecing this together, why are there not very many structures? Maybe this valuable piece of thing that everybody's trying to go to has just been found out in the recent year, and now everybody wants to go there. So it could literally be like a gold hunt or something along that effect. So we have the environment. Trading posts can be found in all manner of environments, from a warm coastal paradise to a cold, harsh mountain passage. Trading posts are scattered all over the world. So, we can choose to roll, or we can choose to take one of these options. And I did kind of put it at Dustgate point, but I'm actually curious to see what we will actually roll here. So let's go ahead and roll that 1d10, and we got a 5, which is a river. The trading post is near a steadily flowing stream or other watercourse. And if I had actually chosen to take one of these options, to kind of go with the name, I would have probably taken desert. Actually, in fact, you know what? I'm actually going to do that. I've never had a desert themed anything in any of my games, and this might be something that I would use. So the trading post is in a dry and arid environment, likely covered with vast sand dunes. Watch out for the worms though. And actually, now that I think about it, this actually fits pretty perfectly well with a certain bazaar that I know of in what is it? One of the fantastic shops, remarkable shops in their wares. There was a little place for that. We have a spot for any notes that we have right here. So here we can add something like, this is an entry point into the region. Maybe from the west, or maybe from the north. How about that? So as you go south along this land, you get into like this deserty point. I'm kind of thinking about the Dragonlance area, where a lot of the stuff was up north, and then as you go south, there was like a desert area. So that'll be pretty interesting. So we get to step number 2, which is all about the community. So a trading post is nothing without its people. The population is made up of both permanent residents and visitors who are passing through. Places with lots of traffic tend to have something to offer or be placed at key locations. You can use your trading post population as a guide or indicator of where it might be and what it might mean for the surrounding area. So we're gonna get started with the resident population. So how large is the population here? So let's roll that d20. We have another 5, so it's sparse. There are empty houses and businesses, which I think, well, I mean, visitor traffic does not indicate an actual population, so this kind of makes sense. So we're at 5, which is sparse. There are some empty houses and businesses. And we're also going to get a +1 to the crime roll, which should offset our previous roll, which was -1. Yeah. So that kind of evens out right there. So we got a +0 to crime roll at the moment. And now we get to figure out the demographics of this area. So we'll roll a d20. We have 16. So we have a wide distribution. So that means 20% of the primary race, probably humans if you're taking this into a Dungeons and Dragons setting. I'm actually going to use this for a Humblewood setting. So if I'm going to use this for something like that, I need to think about what my world is and what types of races I'm going to have in that certain area. So for me in Humblewood, I've actually created this, created certain races that go in certain countries and continents in my game. So I'm actually gonna pull some of that in here. So 20% primary race, all others reasonably well represented. So what does this mean? And actually later, as I go back and look at my maps and look at where I'm gonna specifically put this, I'll start thinking about what that primary race is. And then of course, everything else will be evenly distributed for all of the others. So I'll have some bird folk and some humble folk, which are bird people and like things like deer and fox people going into those different areas. So yeah, I'll have to think about what that primary race is going to be. But if you're doing this in a typical fantasy setting, that could be anything like humans if you're doing this in a primary continent, or elves if you're like in a forest, or dwarves if you're in the mountains, or anything like that. So it's up to you to decide what the primary race is of that region that you're in. And then we have disposition, and the residents of a trading post will typically have a prevailing opinion of visitors, which will affect their disposition towards them. So disposition, as I've talked about with my remarkable reviews, is how that people tend to view certain other races. So they could favor them, they can be friendly, or they can be openly hostile. And on our roll, we got an 18, which is actually friendly and open. That's on the border of friendly and open, which I'm actually very thankful for. But at the same time, if I had gotten something like hostile, that actually would have influenced where I would have put this location, because there are some races in my game that are quite hostile towards others. And so if I had actually rolled something like this, then I would have put that in that specific region. But now that I'm friendly, perhaps this could be on the border of that place. All right, so we have law enforcement. Does the trading post have a law enforcement present? Who oversees it? Is it enough to affect the chances of being assaulted on the streets, in a tavern, or in a back alley? How close should a traveler hold onto their coin purses? So these types of things are really good for like creating social, or rather urban encounters, let's say. So if you don't have a local enforcement, if your crime is allowed to go up, then that means I'm probably gonna have more urban encounters. And I think that's what that means, as we'll see later. So let's roll the d20. We got an 8, which is small local watch. That's very interesting, but I can make that work. Small local watch. So we got a sheriff, a deputy. I'll probably do a deputy. Or actually, those aren't even the same thing. You get all of these. And a handful of volunteer residents. And that gives us a +0 to the crime roll. And, well, actually, we'll see later what this means, but if I remember correctly, we got ourselves a -1 here. We got ourselves a +1 for the resident population. Or did I get that backwards? No, that's right. And for the local law enforcement, we get +0. We haven't gotten to the population wealth just yet. Although I really do find it quite confusing that population wealth is before law enforcement. But oh well, I'm not going to be nitpicky like that. So we have leadership. Separate from law enforcement, who guides the trading post? So let's roll the d20 and see what we get. Got a 14. So we have a local council. And I can make that work. So let's go ahead and write that in. So prominent members of the community were chosen to lead the trading post collectively. All right. And some of the other things that we actually have, and I should be going over this as I do each roll, but we have no leader. We have a hereditary, so passed down from bloodline, a merchant monarch. That really would have been interesting. We have an underworld or criminal enterprise, an oligarchy, and you'll have to actually roll if it's ruled by merchants, mages, priests, or other small group. We have a single elected leader, so democracy, pretty much, and anarcho-syndicalist commune. Try saying that fast 3 times. The members of the trading post take turns as a sort of executive officer for the week, and that just kind of blows my mind. Is that really a thing? I've never heard of that in any real world or even a fantasy setting. But hey, if you roll that natural 20, I guess that's what you're gonna be going for. All right, so we have the population wealth. How wealthy is the population in general? How does this affect the happiness of the general population and the prices for goods and services? And this will actually influence what your quality and what the crime rolls are later. This is modified by the condition, which is -3 to the population. Now, these minuses and these pluses can definitely influence what degree of wealth that you are in. As we've seen before, when we rolled up on the size, in my capitals, sometimes it didn't quite affect things because I actually accrued some pretty major bonuses. So be aware of that. All right, so all minuses, the minuses to crime on this table represent reasons why there might be more crime based on population wealth. If wealth is low, crime is likely due to desperation. If wealth is high, it's likely due to greed. And I really like how they explain what the roles can mean. So I really like that little blurb. If wealth is low, crime is likely due to desperation. If wealth is high, then it's due to greed. So it explains why your location is the way it is. So I digress. We need to be rolling some dice. I got a 15 -3, which makes it 12, which actually does put us into average. We were prosperous, but now we're just average. And I can deal with that. So most of the population have enough to live a modest life. All right. So where's the crime coming from? Well, maybe it's not the actual population itself that is doing the crime. Maybe it's the visitors that could be doing the crime. But we get a +0 to the crime and to the quality rolls. So actually there's more than one quality roll. So the population wealth, so that's for the crime, that's going to be a +0. So we actually equal out at a 0. So, that's actually really funny. So crime encompasses activities such as robberies, confidence games, and mugging, sometimes even murder. How likely are these kinds of things to happen in the trading post? So, roll 20. We got ourselves a 17. It is uncommon. Since we have no modifiers, because all of our modifiers kind of canceled out, we're at 0, so that means they are uncommon. Right? 17, yes. Some in the trading post have run into a pickpocket or heard about a robbery. But, whoa, the comma is in the wrong spot there. But when they do, it's a noteworthy occurrence. So maybe like your wives talking on the corner. Did you hear about that robbery on the corner of 2nd and 3rd? That makes no sense, by the way. All right, but we do get a +1 to the urban encounter roll, or urban encounter rolls. All right, new urban encounter modifiers here, which is +1. And they didn't include the page numbers, which is unfortunate. We can add some notes here. Maybe crime is a product of the visiting population. So urban encounters are intended to happen in-game while players are in the settlement, and as such are not intended to be planned as part of the game preparations or world building. So the tables for these can be found starting on page 442. That's Appendix B. I kind of really wish they had included that page number in the sheet itself. I guess this is supposed to be more notes. Doesn't actually have it any labeled, but that's all right. All right, so we're going on to the second page, and this is the last page for the trading posts. We have step number 3. The points of interest. So points of interest are places of significance in a settlement. These fall into 3 categories: shops, services, and places of worship. There is a distinction made between shops and services based on their primary function. A smithy may be able to repair something, but primarily they sell tools and equipment. A stable may sell horses, but primarily provide the service of boarding mounts owned by someone else. Each trading post comes with the following default locations for free. They do not count among the commercial locations to be rolled on the following tables. If you are using the trading post settlement sheet, you will see them already noted, as we have them right here. We have the general store and we have the inn, because every trading post needs those 2 things. So we get the you get the general store as a shop and the service, or the inn, as a service. So there we go. Something to make note of, and this was actually mentioned in the Remarkables shops supplement that I reviewed some time ago. Sometimes your inn might have some of those shops within them, shops or other services within them. So for example, this is what is the size of this place again? We're at a medium. If this was a small or a tiny location, I would have combined the general store with the inn. You know, something like that. I might have done something like that. But since we're at a medium, they can be 2 different places. I'm fine with that. I mean, it's 60 different buildings, so it's actually quite big. So we're gonna start rolling on some shops. So shops are establishments where you can purchase something. And as you might be expected, a trading post will always have at least a few shops. So the trading post size is medium, so we're gonna roll 1d8 plus 6 for the shop locations. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll that. And our result was 12, which is... oh, that's the number of shops. Location. So we get 12 shops. Wow, do we even have 12 spots open? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Okay. Number of shop locations. So we're going to put 12 right there. So what sort of shops are in the trading post? Below are the categories the shops can fall into: basic, specialty, and exotic. So basic are things that are needed in the settlement. Specialty are particular categories, and exotics are the rare things. Something else to make note of, if you actually roll doubles on the shops table, you treat it as another location, which is really cool because let's say I roll 2 different alchemist shops. I could definitely either put them into a guild or I can turn them into rivals, and they would always be vying for my players' attention or something like that. Or maybe some sort of murder mystery. Who knows? These are little interesting details that can be put into your game, especially if you're doing a main location that your players are always going to come back to, so you have reoccurring NPCs. Things like this can really help flesh out some really interesting urban encounters. So we have 12 100 D100 rolls to make. So here's our first one, 52. We have a Wainwright, builds carts and wagons. Very interesting. Something is beeping in the background. So I actually don't know what a Wainwright is, so I'm gonna keep that in the notes. It's probably a really bad place to put it, actually, because I'm gonna have to put quality stuff here. All right, so we got ourselves a Wainwright. We have 38. Taylor. And if I had actually thought ahead of time, I would have made a macro to do all of these roles separately. I know what a tailor is. Tailor makes clothes. 16. Carpenter. Every place needs a carpenter. We already know what a carpenter is. 17 is a general store. Another general store. So look at that. Sells basic supplies, groceries, and various odds and ends. So maybe I might actually put like a small general store inside of the inn, and maybe I'll have a bigger general store that's separate. And what I should be doing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Stop here. Okay. Or rather, last roll here. Sorry, I'm just organized like that. 35 is a smithy. And of course, you don't have to roll all of these. If there's something that you really want that fits, you are free to actually include that. We got ourselves another smithy. Actually, let's institute a rule. If we get 2 of the same rolls back to back, we'll re-roll. We got ourselves a 90, which is actually on the other page. We have a magic shop, which is armor. And by the way, the higher the roll, the more exotic it is. So you see that there's a letter at the end of each one. That determines if it's standard, exotic, or specialty. There we go. Basic, specialty, or exotic. So we got our first magic shop here, which is armor, which is very interesting. We have a 21, which is another general store. Wow, this place is up the wazoo for general stores. And there might be a reason for that. Maybe they specialize in different products. Textile production. Larger scale than a single weaver, offering a wide array of materials in larger quantities. Not that it really does a whole lot in game as a shop, but you can still turn that into a place of interest. All right, so this definitely should be one of the necessities in the trading post, a bank and exchange. And if we had actually not rolled one of these, I probably would have taken off one of the general stores and substituted that in. So if you don't know, a bank and exchange are things like an auction house, banking. They can exchange currency. So like if you're trading in gems for actual coin, or maybe that you have a world where your different regions have different coins, printed coins, that could be an exchange. So let's do another roll. 26 is an herbalist. We haven't had one of those yet. This will common herbs and natural non-magical remedies. If you have a herbalist supplement, that would be a really cool place to use it. We have a baker, which you gotta eat somehow, and 49, another Wainwright. All right, we can make that work. And of course, you can take a look at this whole entire list. So we have baker, butcher, cooper. a carpenter, general store, herbalist, smithy, tailor, tanner, or a taxidermist, thatcher, wainwright, a weaver, alchemist, artist, make an exchange. You can take a look at all of these, and if there's something that you absolutely need, like if you're on the let's say that you are in a location over by the sea, it might make sense to have a shipwright. But then again, if you are close to an open body of water, you're probably not rolling an outpost. You're probably going to be doing something along the lines of a major city. But you can substitute any of these for one of the things that you roll. Like, I don't think I really need 2 wainwrights, so let's go ahead and re-roll that. Let's see what we get. We get 84, which is a luxury furnishing store. I actually had this in my Capitals game as well. I actually had like 2 in different districts though. So we'll put a luxury furnishing store there. Sure. Okay. We get rules for rarer magic shop. Typically, magic shops are very rare. The shop's table gives a roughly 10% chance of there being one, but if desired, you can change that. So we won't mess with that. So let's take a look at the service table. So same thing, we're rolling a D100. And we are going to roll 1d6 plus 3. So 1d6 plus 3. We got ourselves 7 specialty locations. Does not count, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is gonna be our last roll right there. And let's roll on the D100. So there's also a little blurb over here about the inn that you have, but we're gonna skip over that. Actually, we do have unscrupulous. If you have the unscrupulous contractor's specialty, make sure to note the kind of hired help your unscrupulous contractors are. Following the services table is a hired help size table. You can roll on this to see whether your unscrupulous contractors are an individual, team, or guild. So that's something later that we can get down the line. Okay, so we got ourselves an 11, which is a bathhouse. Like those bathhouses for those stinky people that are coming in through our location. 15, which is another bathhouse, and as our rules, if we roll 2 of the same thing, we're gonna go ahead and re-roll. That's another re-roll. Wow, this bathhouse encompasses like 7% of the entire roll here. There we go. 73, which is a tavern, which also I think is something very much a necessary thing to have in an outpost, but okay, it's a rollable thing. We have ourselves another tavern, so we're gonna roll. I will say this list doesn't seem as diverse as the other one. Let's see, what percentage were we working with? We were working with about 4% for each location, so yeah, the specialty shop isn't as diverse in my opinion. We got ourselves an 18, which is an apothecary. Yeah, we'll go ahead and use the fancy term apothecary. Give me some high rolls, please. I don't want 2 of the same rolls. That is another bathhouse. I don't think I'm going to use another bathhouse. I want something a little bit different. So we have hired help. And these are magic mercenaries. Very interesting. So magic mercenaries, specialists trained the use of arcane or non-divine magic in combat and practical mission scenarios. So that's very interesting. We have something like that in our divine area. In 81, we have brutes and brawlers. So this kind of really begs the notion that we're going into a unforgiving land, maybe a wild and unforgiving land. So there are people that are mercenaries that are looking for coin to help any adventurers along their way. We got ourselves another inn, which we can put another one in. And then our last roll is a 38, which is another inn. We're gonna go ahead and re-roll that. It's an 83, and we get our Cloak and Dagger hired help. Very interesting. What I should do is use the abbreviation. Not Dragger, Dagger. So there we go. Not as diverse as the shops, but we did manage to re-roll some things and get some of the stuff. Okay, so for each of our hired helps, we do need to roll for the hired helps, see how many there are or how they function. So we're gonna roll 1d12. We got ourselves a 12 for the top one, which is the Mage Guild. So they are an actual guild. So an organized guild is hiring out their services. When hired, a portion of the guild's members handle the job, not the entire guild, unless the job is very, very large. All right, let's roll for the next one. Individual person for the brute. The hired help is a single person hiring out their services. And you know what? We can actually make that work. That's actually pretty funny. This brute brawler dude is gonna tank it all on his own. He's gonna be named Leroy Jenkins, by the way. I have deemed it necessary. So if any of my Humblewood players happen to stumble across this location, you're gonna meet a Leroy Jenkins. A 10, which is a team. So hey, look, we got all three of them. So the Cloak and Dagger is gonna be a team. The hired help is a team of individuals who work together. All right, let's move on. The optional, which is the quality. You can roll on this table for any location's quality. So quality can apply to everything. So there's 3 different qualities. There's poor, good, and fine. You can roll those qualities for each of your shops. I'm actually going to skip this for the sake of time. And I don't really think it's that necessary unless you have very rich and diverse location. So for an outpost, I really don't think it's necessary, but maybe for something like a capital where you have different districts, that might be something you would want to do. All right, trading posts are predominantly mercantile settlements, don't typically have many non-commercial locations apart from a place of worship. So we'll roll a 1d6. Well, not a 5, but a 6. We got a 2. And I'm actually going to change that. Because we do have the Hand of the Divine, I almost feel like they should include a place of worship for that reason. But actually, now that I think about that, that could just as well be a cult, and you know, yeah. So for the place of worship, I'm going to go ahead and say yes, just so I can make the Hand of the Divine work a little bit. And so we're gonna go ahead and roll 1d20. It's got a 10, so it's an oratory, a modest building with seating for attendees appointed with various items or images relating to that of the faith of venerates. And you know what, I wonder if I could actually maybe, you know, just copy and paste. No, that's my biggest gripe with PDFs and editing text and whatnot. So there we go. Got it. Fervency of local following. So let's roll a d20. We got ourselves a 12, which is subtle. Just gonna go ahead and write subtle. Followers of the faith may be identifiable but remain very unobserved. An alignment of the faith. This is gonna be an interesting one. So let's roll a 1d10. 4. Evil. Just kidding, it's neutral. Alright. It would have been really interesting if we had a neutral, or sorry, if we had an evil faith. But hey, we could definitely make that work with some sort of a cult setting. So let's kind of scroll up. Oh, we're getting down to it. Okay, so we have extra intrigue, and this is the last part of the outposts area. So we have recent history. What events have happened in the trading post within recent memory? These events may be having an impact on the here and now. Okay. For example, if the trading post was once under the control of a tyrannical mayor who was ousted by the residents and exiled from the region, there may be long-lasting effects which could help with the storytelling and role-playing the NPCs. So let's roll a d6. Got a 3. Crime Central. Some of the older population remember when the trading outpost was run by a criminal organization, but were ousted some time ago. That's very interesting. I'll actually have to really think about that. So some of the older population. By a criminal organization. Huh. That'll really make me think. So politics. What is the current political climate of the trading outpost? Well, let's find out. 3. Another 3. Embattled. Opposing enemy forces surround the trading post on all sides, and it finds itself located in the midst, though not necessarily participating in, an ongoing conflict. Okay. So that's kind of self-explanatory. So this is actually going to be in a region where there's going to be a strife with conflict. So you might have different lands or different regions. So this could be like at a tri-point between regions. And so there's going to be all sorts of conflict between those different political organizations. So events, trading posts always seem to have something going on, no matter the time. What is the current happening at this very moment? Roll 1d6. We have caught red-handed. A shop owner has caught a thief and is threatening them with a weapon in the street as they beg for mercy. Not going to really use that. That seems like something that I would roll in the heat of the moment. But I could go ahead and put that there just as a backup, you know. But let's talk about opportunities real quick. Trading posts are known to have capable adventurers passing through every so often. When an issue needs handling, word gets around quickly. Below is a table of different types of situations that could crop up in a trading post. So this one I will roll on because this is a more prominent. So we have political intrigue. A locally known noble has gone missing recently. Perhaps they were traveling through and never made it to their destination. Perhaps no one even saw them leave at all. And so if my players are going to be spending a little bit of time here, this will be something that I would put in. This could be like a part of a major quest for the players. This could be a nice little side trek before they continue on with whatever they're doing. If they are spending a lot of time here, this could just be the beginning of something even greater. What kind of weather do we have when the players arrive? This is something I'm not going to roll on because you have good, mild, fair, harsh, bad. I actually roll my weather separately using a macro for my games, depending on the region that they're in. So I actually have one for a desert region. So I would actually roll that on the day that they get there. The danger level, the places trading posts exist in are typically uncivilized or wild. Is the surrounding area dangerous? So let's see. Roll 1d20. 8. Common. So you're not going to be able to see it. Aside from my dice roller there, sorry about that. Danger or hazards are commonplace. There we go. That's all you need to write. Danger type. When danger does occur, what does it tend to be? Roll a d10 for this one. Whoops. 7. Environmental. And since we're out in the desert, I can definitely make that work. And that is actually it. So there is a great rumor table in Appendix C on page 444, And so you can also create some NPCs, and there are some rollable tables in Chapter 8, which I'll go through later. Although I find it really interesting that they don't include a place for NPCs here, but they do, I think they do in the capitals sheet. So very interesting that. The last few pages, and I'm not going to show all of them because I'm going to show these off when I do my review. There are some sample outposts. So if you need something quick to plug in, these outposts are really good. I believe they all come with a map. Don't quote me on that one though. I will actually let you know when I do my full review. So that's actually it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Dustgate Point is now ready. I will actually include excuse me. I will actually include the PDF for this trading post and all of my other sheets that I create in the future. So like my villages and towns and going all the way up to fortresses and capitals. I'll include a PDF for all of that for you guys down in the description below. So you can check back as a new video comes up and it'll get updated over time. That way you guys can use it. You can change it however you see fit, but you guys can use it as well. So thank you guys. Please leave a thumb up to help support this series, and don't forget to subscribe, especially if you want to see more. I will see you guys in the next video.